This is Gary Cato with Project SOS, and I'm very proud to sponsor this episode of Salute. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Salute. I'm your host, Bob Peters, and I'm here in the beautiful city of Traverse, Florida. I'm at the museum, the Lake County Museum, which is located in the old courthouse in downtown Traverse. And I have a gentleman with me, Mr. Roy Berry, United States Marine Corps, who is kind of the curator of this room, I gather, right?
That's correct.
Well, I want to know a little bit about Mr. Roy Berry, USMC. When did you go into Marines? I understand you're a local guy here. You went from here because you knew my friend James Floyd.
That's right.
1410 the Q. And later on, I want you to give me the dirt on James Floyd, okay?
All right. I don't know if I have too much dirt, though. He's a pretty good guy.
He's a great guy. He does a lot for veterans.
Yes, he does.
I'm throwing a little plug out. 1410 the Q. Tell me about yourself now.
Well, I moved to Lake County. My family moved to Lake County in 1978. I graduated at Eustis High School, and I joined the Marine Corps in the fall of 1983. Went to Parris Island, graduated December 20th, 1983, and then went from there to Camp Geiger / Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for infantry training school. And then from there, I went to the 1st Marine Division in Camp Pendleton, California with the 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, and spent pretty much all of my time out there, although we did go to Washington State for training. I did 2 tours in Okinawa, and from Okinawa went to Korea for mountain warfare training. Also went to Fort Sherman, Panama for jungle operations training. And until 1987, then was discharged. I was out for about 3 years, not quite 3 years. I was a police officer in Mount Dora. And then later on, I joined the Marine Reserves in Orlando during the first Persian Gulf War. But the war ended rather quickly, so they sent me back to California for more training.
Yeah, tell me about Korea. What did you think of Korea?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
How long were you there?
I was only there for a few weeks. Went to a mountain warfare school there near Pohang, Korea. Pohang or Pohang, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. But anyways, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I'm not crazy about heights, but it was a great country. I had a really good time. The weather was actually nice. We went there actually twice. One time in the winter, one time in the summer. The winter time I did not go because I had a little accident, went up in the hospital.
Oh, okay. Well, Korea, I've interviewed quite a few Korean veterans. I have quite a few of them that are my friends, and they tell me about the winters over there are brutal.
Well, just the terrain itself, when I was over there, I was thinking about the Korean veterans because it's so hilly and mountainous terrain, and it looks like a tough place to fight a war.
It was.
And I was there in the summer, so.
Yeah, I've interviewed several of them. One of them, I gave you a picture of today that we're going to talk a little about. Tom Teal, who was a local veteran here, and he was in charge of the Korean Veterans, Chapter 169. But yeah, Korea was a tough place. And Okinawa, what did you do in Okinawa?
Train in the infantry. So
you trained a lot.
I trained a lot. I was also a marksmanship coach, and then the last year I was in Okinawa in '87, I was the NCOIC in charge of our company armory. So, so I did a lot with weapons.
So tell me, I know you did an article with my friend Keith Oliver, who was also a Marine. He writes for the Daily Commercial. That you have a lot of relatives, and you have a history. You're kind of a history buff, I hear.
I am. My mom and dad were both history buffs. My dad was a military collector and historian, so he really helped get me hooked on it. And when I started out, when I was very young, I collected firearms mostly. And all different types. And then I started collecting just military old firearms, all the way back from the Spanish-American War, Indian Wars, on up to Vietnam. Then I started getting into uniforms, hats, ephemera, and other material. And that's been about 30 years now that I've been collecting. So it's kind of an addiction.
You must have probably enough to fill this whole place yourself, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. So what was your desire? Well, why did you get that way? It was just because your parents were in it, was something in the service that.
Well, I've always loved the military. When I was young, I just had a fascination with it, and I was particularly drawn to the sea services with the Navy and the Marine Corps. As a matter of fact, I went to talk to the Navy before I joined the Marine Corps, but finally decided I just wanted to be a Marine, and I'm glad I did. But I've always had a love affair with the sea and the Navy and ships too. So, but also always been very interested in World War I. World War II as well, of course, but I just am very interested in World War I in that period of time, turn of the century, and Spanish-American War, and some of the other small wars the United States were involved in, but you never hear about, from the Boxer Rebellion to the Philippine Insurrection and the so-called Banana Wars and things like that. So, but yeah, once you start going down that rabbit hole of collecting, you're like, well, I bought a uniform, I need a hat, now I need the field gear, now I need this, now I need that.
Yeah.
So it's addictive, but it's fun.
Yeah, well, it keeps you out of trouble, right?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Trying to help you out.
I know, it's okay.
You know, so how many years total did you do in the Corps?
4 active, and then about a year in the active reserves and 2 in inactive reserves.
Okay, now we're out of the military, and where are we now? You said you were a police officer?
I was a police officer for a while, and I wound up going to the Walt Disney Company, and I've worked for Walt Disney World for 30 years. 30 years this past May.
Yeah, you're still there, right?
Still there. Oh, yes.
Say hello to Mickey for me.
Every day.
So and what do you do there?
I actually train people to drive the boats, the transportation boats to and from the hotels at the Magic Kingdom, the large ferry boats that go from the transportation center over to the Magic Kingdom, and all the other boats out there.
Mm-hmm. So being a history buff, like I am too, but I'm more into, well, it's a little bit in World War I, but World War II, and if you follow the history like I do, you know, going back from the Revolutionary War, you got shot in the leg, you're more likely to die, to the modern day warriors where it's amazing what they can do, you know, to save a life. And I just totally enjoyed it, but somehow you got involved in here, and how'd that happen, in this museum?
I've been coming to this museum for over 20 years, and I was always curious about their military section. I like all history. They have interesting displays from transportation to local history and so on. But I came in here about a little over 3 years ago, and I saw they had done a lot with the museum in general. The former curator, Bob Grenier, worked really hard, and his staff, and they did a fantastic job. So I talked to Bob, became friends with Bob and Don Campbell, and then wound up on the board of directors, and then was helping him with the military museum. And we, during COVID, we decided to go through the museum and do a lot of work. We've had a lot of changeover in our personnel. So we've really been revamping the entire museum. I would consider her a coordinator for the museum, or a curator too. She's probably going to say something about that. But her name is Stacy Appleby. She's done a fantastic job with the museum. And then I've been basically put in charge of the military or veterans museum here, or gallery. We have 4 galleries, so this is gallery 1. So I've been working as much as I can here, trying to get it.
Well, you're working with a good guy. You're working with a good guy, Bob Grenier. I mean, he's written several books. He's a real history buff.
Yes, he is.
You know, so well, we're going to take a little walk. But when did this museum start? You're going to give me a little history on when this all started. Because I know during COVID, you guys were closed.
Correct.
Because I used to come by every once in a while because I like to go through the museum. I love museums. And you were closed during COVID, and now you're open again.
Yes.
What are the hours? If you got a Facebook page or whatever?
Yes, we have a website, we have a Facebook page, and we're open Tuesday through Friday. And I believe the hours are 10 to 3, although on Tuesday I think that might be a little bit later. I'd have to check.
Yeah, well, if they want to know, they can call, right?
Absolutely.
And the number would be?
I'd have to look at my phone. Because I never call here.
We'll get back to you on that later in the show.
You got me.
Yeah, okay. The web page is what?
Lake County Historical Museum.
Okay.
And the same with the Facebook page.
Okay. So unless you have something else, we're going to take a little walk around.
Well, let's go for a walk.
All right. Okay, we're out in the main lobby of the museum right now. We got a couple of displays here that we want to look at prior to going into the gallery itself for the military gallery. And I want you to tell me about this display because this is very interesting.
I did this display a while back. I was up on the 5th floor storage area, and we came across these helmets, and I couldn't find any reference on where they came from as far as who donated them. But these are World War I German helmets. This one right here is for an enlisted German soldier. This one right here is for a Prussian artillery officer. The one right here has a little bit of heat damage, but is dated 1916 and has a soldier's name inside of it.
Wow.
And here's a picture of machine gun crew behind World War I machine gun, and you can see the helmets. The helmets are called pickle hobs. Pickle mainly is for spike, hob is for hat. And they wore these helmets early in the war from 1914 until about 1916. In 1916, they were issued regular steel helmets, very similar to what the German Army wore in World War II, except they were a little bit larger. So, but on this helmet right here, you'll see it has the inscription on the front. It's a little difficult to read.
The front, this is the front here.
Correct.
Okay,
it's a little difficult to see right here, but it has FR, that's for King Frederick. And it has an inscription below it. It says, "With God for King and Fatherland."
Wow. That is very interesting. Roy, I noticed you make sure that you got some stuff in here about the women veterans, because they're a very big part of the military. And what are we looking at here?
This is a resident of Leesburg, General Polly Pyer, who was a retired Air Force Major General, and she's the first female general from Lake County. And these are some of her personal items that she's loaned to the museum, including her ribbons, some of her small medals, and photographs and other documents. And we have some other items of General Pyer in the other gallery.
And we'll be checking them out in a little bit, but there's quite an assortment of ribbons and medals. She must have had quite the career.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Well, we thank her for her service. Entering inside the gallery itself, and Roy, you're going to give us some of the highlights of what's in here.
Sure. One of the first things we have here is a memorial to David Walker. As you might know, there's a road in Eustis named after him. David Walker was a naval aviator, and he was an astronaut. And unfortunately, he passed away of cancer. I can't remember exactly what year. And then right over here, we have Robert McTurr's display. Robert McTurr's was a Marine who served on Okinawa with the 6th Marine Division, and he was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously for his gallantry in fighting the Japanese. He's from Altoona originally, and there's also his homestead is also a museum. So, and over here, as we talked about General Polly Pyer, here's her uniform right here, a photograph of her, some of her other personal items that she loaned to the museum. This uniform right over here is Mr. Kerry Baker, who is the county tax appraiser. He did about...
No, he's property
appraiser. Well, he was a first sergeant, and he served for around 30 years in the military.
And he is also on Central Florida Salute YouTube.
Yes.
So you're going to have to watch it.
That one I have not seen.
It just came on this week.
Oh, is that right? I have to see that one.
Is this lady still alive?
Yes, she is. She lives over in Ormond Beach.
Oh, Ormond Beach.
Mm-hmm. So this display right here is for Captain Albert Wright. Captain Wright served with the Pennsylvania Regiment during the Civil War and was severely wounded in the Battle of the Crater. He later moved to Central Florida and managed orange groves here, and is buried in Eustis at the Greenwood Cemetery. Over here, we have a Civil War or Indian War, Spanish-American War era. This right here is a Confederate drum. And the story behind this drum is a Confederate drummer boy who was at the Battle of Gettysburg. He was hit by shrapnel and killed. If you look at the top of the drum, you can see this tape on here. That supposedly is where the piece of shrapnel went through and killed him. So it's sort of a tradition for drummer boys. They had quite the camaraderie. So a Union drummer boy picked this drum up and kept it with him for the duration of the war. It then went into private hands over the years and was eventually donated to the museum here.
You know, the drummer boys, I was at the Eisenhower Center in the Villages, and they had a flag. This one drummer boy had a flag of all the battles he was in, and they signed it. It's very interesting. If you've ever been there, you should go there. But they were very young. Some of them could be like 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. You know, it was an amazing story.
It was.
Glad to see you preserving a lot of this.
This is a horse bit right here, but it's U.S. marked. So it could be U.S. cavalry, it could be regular U.S. Army, but it was actually issued by the U.S. government. The center pack right here is a cavalry pack or haversack that was used during the Indian Wars and Spanish-American War. This particular one is for a Virginia National Guard regiment. And right here is a U.S. cavalry canteen. It has a leather strap. It would mount onto a left ring on the side of the trooper's saddle. And on the back of that, it's also marked to a Virginia cavalry regiment. And it's actually a Civil War canteen, model 1858, that was refurbished for use during the Indian Wars. And this canteen right here is an original model 1858 canteen that was very commonly used by both sides during the Civil War. It still retains its original cover, and it's an original shoulder strap.
I wish I was a Dixie.
So
we'll talk a little bit about that, and notice you know, we have a lot of talk about diversity and everything nowadays. You incorporated the black Confederate soldiers into here too. They were, and on both sides. They were, you know, they fought on both sides.
That's correct. And right here we have Lake County veterans from the Confederacy. Some of them served with Florida units, some of them served with Georgia units or other units. And then we have some areas here where we talk about areas in Florida that were occupied by the Union. There were parts of Florida that were occupied by the Confederacy. Then later on, the Union, like St. Augustine, Key West, for example, never fell into Confederate hands. And these are a list of some of the regiments from the Union that were in Florida at the time during the Civil War. And over here, up above, this is a Spanish-American War Veterans Charter. And that's an original document right there.
Wow. Dated 1898. April to August, 1898. You know, I was here a long time ago. I've been to this museum before, as I told you. And I noticed this right here when I came here. The Connecticut Volunteer Infantry was here during the war. And everybody thinks it was like right in the middle of it. No, they were all
that's a 17th Confederate unit right there that someone had put up there as a...
Yeah, you got troop soldiers come down from Pennsylvania, Connecticut, North Carolina, New Hampshire. Well, that's way up there. Connecticut infantry, New York infantry. It's amazing. A lot of history here. So, Roy, what do we have up here and down here?
Well, this is our World War I section. This is our newest addition to the museum. And right up here we have a World War I Army officer's uniform that belonged to a major who actually served during the Spanish-American War and during World War I served in the Canal Zone with a Army infantry regiment. And to the right of him is a U.S. Army officer's uniform dated 1932. And you can see the difference in the uniforms. The early World War I uniforms had the old stock collars. And then in the 1920s, the Army and Marine Corps went to the roll collars that they use to this day. But they're still the same color of green. Later in World War II, they changed them to brown. And here's another U.S. Army officer's uniform. Is a captain of artillery from World War I. That's his overseas hat right here with the captain bars. The piping in red indicates that he was in artillery. And this is a U.S. Army officer's garrison hat. This is a U.S. Army enlisted soldier, and it belonged to a gentleman named John Giroux, who was with the 42nd Infantry Division during the major battles of World War I. The 42nd Division was dubbed the Rainbow Division because it was comprised of National Guard units that from all across the country, and General MacArthur came up with that.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but just the other day I was at the Eagles. And this lady, her name is Robin, I can't remember the last name. I just talked to her on the phone yesterday because her dad was in World War II and he was with the Rainbow Division.
Oh, is that right?
And she says, I don't know anything about the Rainbow Division. So I looked it up, and I have some information for her. And I may be doing a show with her, and maybe you'd like to meet her and talk to her. I don't know if she's a native of Florida, Lake County, or what, but she says, I have no idea what the Rainbow Division was. And I looked it up for her. So it's interesting. It was a whole bunch of different divisions. Mm-hmm. And another one of our shows that we have on there, it's an old show, Mr. Whip. He fought in World War II, and he was with the, he was one of those that ran through with Eisenhower, getting to all the concentration camps, mm-hmm. and he talks about meeting the skeleton people and everything. Mm-hmm. Tremendous show, tremendous show. But anyway, I don't want to interrupt anyone.
No, I was just going to say, in addition to this, he has all the correct field gear that a soldier would use in World War I. The cartridge belt, canteen and cover, pack, and first aid pouch. Everything's dated 1918 or 1917. So over in this display case here, this is our tribute to the United States Navy and the Marine Corps during World War I. This uniform right here is a naval officer's uniform. It's a fleet officer. He was a lieutenant, and it is actually pre-World War I, dated 1911. Up here is a Navy enlisted uniform, also referred to as a jumper. It's a pullover uniform that they still use to this day. And he was a petty officer, first class, bosun's mate. And if you look on his left sleeve, you see the chevron. The chevron indicates that he served in a combat area for at least 6 months during World War I. And the insignia below his sleeve indicates that he was an expert marksman. This uniform right here is a World War I U.S. Marine uniform. He was a corporal, served aboard ship, and is dated 1918. And you can see it comes with his original belt. Those are actually his original gloves, and this is his original hat. And below it is actually a World War I Marine Corps recruiting brochure.
I recognize this. In fact, I know that guy.
He looks familiar.
And that was him when he was very young. Overseas in Thailand with the B-52s. This is all about Salute. I understand you're going to update it because we are now Central Florida Salute YouTube. And we have a lot of people that you would recognize, especially like one right upstairs, the High Sheriff. He's been on my show, and we want to upgrade this a little bit, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely. I mean, look forward to it.
You're the man.
Absolutely.
But I also, this one right here, this was a friend of mine too, Bob Poppy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's his World War II helmet. He told me he didn't always wear his helmet in B-17. We did a show with him and another guy who was Army. And you really have to check it out. But he was quite the guy. He was a gunner. He was a side gunner and also a tail gunner. And he didn't always wear his helmet, but this one particular mission, so he said, oh, you know, maybe you ought to wear it. And he got hit with flak right in the helmet. So that's the story there.
Yes, it is.
But Poppy was quite a guy.
This is our Korean War display, and this is a Marine from Korea. He has his 1944 pattern utility top and all the correct gear that he would have during the Korean War. Now, of course, during the wintertime, they'd have parkas and heavy-duty clothes gear, or heavy-duty cold weather gear. So here's a photograph here of a soldier with a dead Chinese soldier, and eventually I'm going to put up a caption about how many North Koreans and Chinese were actually killed during the Korean War. It's quite staggering.
Yeah, the Chinese come running over the border, and a lot of them didn't have weapons. And when the one that fell, killed before, they'd pick it up and go. Yeah, Korea there's a lot of history there.
And a lot of the Chinese didn't have the proper cold weather gear either. There were a lot of Chinese who came into American camps and they were missing footwear, and they had ice just frozen to their feet. And the Americans weren't equipped to take them prisoner, so a lot of them were put on the side of the road and they just perished on the side of a road, just froze to death.
I have an uncle who was at the Frozen Chosen, and he lost his toes in Korea. But anyway, that's war, right? I think I know this war.
Think you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Yes, this is a sort of a typical Vietnam and soldier, all correct gear, This type of uniform was used a little bit later. Some of the servicemen, the Marines and the Army who came in 1965, wore a different type of uniform, but it's more practical in the jungle to wear utilities like this. They had the olive drab, and later on they had the camouflage style. And this is the typical M1 helmet with what's called a Mitchell cover, which they adopted in the late 1950s. He has his magazine pouches, his hand grenade, flashlight, and canteen.
And the card on the helmet.
Yeah, I'd put that as a little extra touch. It's just what they call a death card, and there were some units who supposedly used it, some who did not. But it was supposed to be a psychological warfare against the enemy, but really it was more of a morale booster for our soldiers than it was because the Vietnamese, I don't think, really knew what it meant.
You know, I am with I was with the Air Force over there with the B-52s, and I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I have a lot of shows on our YouTube show with the Vietnam veterans. One of them is a guy named Tony who lives down in, I think, Hawthorne. And he was in Korea and Vietnam. If you really want to know more about history, you go to Central Florida Salute YouTube.
Yes, you do.
Okay, we're back out in the main lobby now. We're kind of running out of time, Roy. There's so much to see here. And we're going to just, if you would, just give us like a quick little run. I see we got all kinds of stuff, not just military, a lot of Lake County history.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So you want to basically we'll walk around and look out and anything that's outstanding, because we could be here for hours talking about this stuff.
Yes, we could.
And I can't afford to pay them for hours. So let's look around. Let's go this way. Yeah, we're going to take a quick run in through here. All kind of, it's like the general store kind of.
So this is basically Lake County industry. Of course, the orange industry was huge. It is huge still in Lake County, but these are some of the labels that were used for the citrus packing labels right here. There's all different types. So if you were a collector and you wanted to collect citrus industry memorabilia, this would give you a good start right here.
We have two other galleries. This one is what, the Clayton Bishop Gallery?
Yes, this right here.
Let's take a little walk in.
This is our Boy Scout display. Tavares was, I believe, the first Boy Scout troop in the Central Florida region right here. So some of these items are quite old. And we have our railroad transportation here, some artifacts from the railroad industry.
My father was with the railroads.
Oh,
Yeah.
some of our original residents in Florida here, the Timucuan Indians, Native Americans.
And if this room floods, we have a canoe.
Yeah, right above.
Yeah, you got some stuff here in sports. You got everything. We got everything covered. We even got sports here. And
This is Bob Grenier did this display right here.
yeah, and there's something there with Fireball Roberts somewhere. He was there. He is, Fireball Roberts. He was born in Tavares. I used to watch him race when I was a kid. I really loved it. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but a lot of nice stuff there about different sports people, legends.
Over here, this is more of our natural history. This display, actually, Gene Packwood donated some of these items, or loaned some of these items to the museum right here.
And this is the last room, because we got to wrap this up here, Roy. Okay, in this room we got, you have, like you said, prehistoric.
Natural history displays.
Natural history, yeah.
Prehistoric fossils, and a very large 13-foot alligator skull.
Yeah, and you got the whip because, Florida crackers, that's because of the whip, they cracked the whip.
Correct. Now, we're going to edit this, but the story behind this gentleman is supposedly what inspired the Indiana Jones movies. And he was from Eustis, I believe.
Oh, that's interesting. We're going to end it because above us is the sheriff's, right? The sheriff's department. And this is the sheriff.
Lake County alligator, and his nickname is the sheriff.
Wow, he is something.
I understand he was named by some of the local sheriff's deputies who came down here to visit.
There's a lot to see, and we're going to get the phone number. We're going to insert the phone number. So once again, you can go to Lake County Historical Society, right?
Yes, or Lake County Historical Museum.
Uh-huh.
We have a Facebook page and a website.
Okay, and we want people to check it out.
Absolutely.
You know, you could go around here, we could be talking about this stuff for hours.
Yes, we can.
And I am a firm believer in museums, as I know you are, and we want to get young people to come and look at these museums, not just the military, but everything that's in a museum.
Absolutely.
You know, that's our history. And well, we got the sheriff to our back, he's covering our back. It's time to say goodbye, Roy. So I want you to join me, and you know how I do this. To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.
Since 2009, Project SOS has assisted our veterans both overseas and here at home to overcome medical issues, homelessness, and disabilities. Initially, our efforts resulted in over 22 clinics opened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Recently, as troops have been withdrawn, we have concentrated on issues here at home. During this past year, we have been able to distribute 42 motorized wheelchairs and numerous mobility devices to our local veterans who have served in World War II and up to and including Afghanistan. We continue to offer solutions to our local homeless veterans in the Ocala National Forest and other Central Florida locations. Project SOS Support Our Soldiers needs your assistance to continue helping a growing homeless veterans population. Over-the-counter medications and personal hygiene supplies are acutely needed. Your financial aid will greatly increase the support they so desperately need.